So usually if I'm not in here making videos on stuff that I'm building for myself or working on the house, I'm often building furniture and other woodworking projects for local clients here that live nearby. Now, in order to help me grow my business, I gotta bring in more local clients. So I have to do stuff that make me really uncomfortable and like, ugh, I just don't like it, which is marketing, trade shows, booths, and stuff like that. And I got a real big home show coming up in a couple of weeks. Now, in order to minimize my crippling anxiety, I'm gonna try and be as over-prepared as I possibly can. Now, I'm not really selling any products at this home show, I'm just showcasing my work, so most of my efforts will be going into my actual booth, which is what I'm gonna be doing today. Now, what's one thing that everyone needs when they do a home show or an exhibition or whatever you like to call them? A sign, showcasing their logo and who they are and what they do, which is what I'm gonna concentrate on first. So after spending way too long trying to figure out how to get my logo as a CNC file, okay, so I think I figured it out, but every time I use this thing, it breaks, it explodes, it's screaming at me. Something bad always happens, so let's, fingers crossed. Now, surprisingly, that turned out pretty damn good. Probably would have saved myself about 3 days if I just cut it out by hand, but what are you gonna do? So you'll notice that I made it out of MDF, and that's because, one, MDF is so easily available, you can buy it from anywhere. I would say it's cost effective, it's still expensive, but it's cheaper than some materials, and it's very easily paintable, which is what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna prime it, and then I'm gonna paint it. Now, this looks pretty damn cool, unless you actually work with CNCs all the time, and it's not really that impressive, but my wife thinks it's cool, so that's what really matters. Now, obviously I can't just have these letters kind of just floating around. They're gonna have to have some kind of back into it. So I cut the remainder of the MDF just a little bit bigger than the size of the logo itself. Now, I could just paint the MDF a contrasting color and then that would be fine, but I'm a woodworker at the end of the day, and the whole reason I'm doing this super uncomfortable event is to showcase my woodworking skills so I can do better. But as I'm trying to do this in a cost-effective way, ideally I could use a whole bunch of scrap pieces of wood for this, but I'm not the kind of person who holds on to his offcuts. Who am I kidding? I got scraps of wood here, here, over here, up here, and over here. I got a serious problem. So I grabbed all the pieces of white oak and then ripped them all down to 3/8 of an inch in thickness. And now I can go ahead and rip them all down into various size widths, ranging from 2 1/4 all the way down to 5/8. Okay, so I think this is gonna look pretty damn cool. And you notice that there's a bit of definition between each piece of wood, and I did that by putting a small round over on the side of each piece. With that, ultimately, I think it looks a lot cooler. It highlights the different widths, which I really like this style, and it's gonna help hide any of the deficiencies when we come to do the next stage. So now I can go ahead and glue it all together, and as MDF is really porous, I'm gonna apply a heavy amount of wood glue using a roller. It's also going to be a really awkward thing to clamp down, so to help me out with that process, I'm going to be firing in some 23 gauge pins, which ultimately will get covered up when I come to sand. Next, I can apply a couple of coats of finish to make the grains pop and the tones really stand out. Okay, so now I'm excited because the finish had dried. I brought my letters back over and it's time to stick it to the backer. So once I've marked out basically the position of where the letters are gonna go, I then glued it down using a mixture of Titebond 3 and CA glue. So the CA glue will hold it down immediately, but the Titebond 3 is what's gonna hold it down over time. So how freaking cute is this? Now I'm pretty happy how this turned out, and my anxiety levels are slowly dropping ever so slightly. But this has to get hanged on something, obviously it can't be floating in the air. So I'm gonna build myself a 2x3 wall and then face it with OSB. the main reasons why I chose OSB is because one, it's really light, and this thing is a freestanding wool, so I want to make it as light as possible. It's also fairly strong and it's cheaper than plywood. You'll also notice that I made it in 3 sections, and that's mostly because, well, it's a pretty big wool. It's going to be heavy as one whole unit, so it's a lot easier to kind of move around, and then I can just kind of set it up once I've delivered it on the day of the home show. And then lastly, I also made these triangle shaped braces either end of the wool, and that's what's going to keep it upright and sturdy, because the last thing I want is this thing coming crashing down. So next I want to like dry attach my sign, and in order to do that, so then I can take it off again to come and paint, I'm going to be doing it using this French cleat system. So when I come to install all of this on the day of, I will be putting some screws through the back of the OSB into the back of the sign, which is going to really lock it in place. And that way it doesn't get nudged off, because this has a fair bit of weight in it. Now this wool is fairly long, which means I've got a whole bunch of space here that's kind of just been wasted. And I was trying to think of ways how I can use this space to kind of showcase my work. And it got me thinking, well, what better way to show off what I do than showing people exactly how I do it? So I have this TV that's kind of floating above my head that doesn't really get used that often. So I took the TV down and took some measurements of the inside of the screen, and then transferred and cut out those measurements on that free space of the wall. And then once my hole is cut out from the back, I attach some 2x4s top and bottom, so that way I can really snug the TV in. Now the TV is pretty damn snug in here, but I probably will put some strapping in behind to stop it from being pushed out. So next I can go ahead and take the sign down, take the TV out and strip the wool down, so that I can give it a couple of coats of primer and a couple of coats of paint. So I don't know if you can really see this through the camera, but once the OSB is painted, it has this really cool texture that I like a lot. And I think I'm going to try and use this in some future builds somehow. Now this is looking really good, but I still feel like it's missing a little something. That's more like it. Now I can promote both my woodworking businesses at once. Now this is looking pretty damn cool, and my anxiety levels and my excitement levels about this home show are starting to switch up a little bit, which is a good thing. Now this isn't my usual kind of build, so if you want to check out some of my modern furniture or my home renovations, check out a few of these videos down here. I guarantee you'll find something that you'll enjoy. Or if you want to see some of my quick tip videos, check out some of these videos up here. I basically show you how to fix things and repair things around your home. You will find something useful there, so make sure to have a look at those as well. Now